Join me again today for another episode of Road Ramblings, this time D&D related. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before. Welcome to those of you who've not been here previously. Uh, this is another episode of a segment we've come to decide to call Road Ramblings. If you're new to the channel and you're wondering why I said we, it's because there are two other gentlemen who we also collaborate and do videos. But a couple of us have to drive quite a bit, so we do videos separate, and they all wind up on the channel. So don't think it's me using the royal we, or that I'm some kind of pompous ass that would do that. So, because I'm not. So, whenever I say we, I'm referring to myself and the two others, Brad and Chad. I'm Bobby. So, today, as I've done in some of the other videos, I'm going to kind of talk about how to adapt certain storylines to Dungeons and Dragons. And as I talked about in a much earlier video that will be linked to somewhere in here, probably up on the top of the little eye thing, or maybe at the end of the video, or maybe a pinned comment, or maybe all those. Who knows? We'll see. We'll go crazy. But I believe that especially for a beginner, adapting other ideas to your campaign, that the best approach is to find movies that you can draw ideas from. And I really went into it in the other video, but in very brief, it's because typically, unless it's part of a larger series, a movie has a definitive beginning, middle, and end. So it has a plot, possibly a B plot, and it's contained. And it doesn't require you as much time as it would take to read a novel, which would also be contained. But if you have the time, the novel's a better approach because it's far more detail. But people have lives, so movies. Typically going to take no more than roughly 2 hours of your time. Just make some notes. Whereas like a TV show, if it's episodic, an episodic TV show can also work. Just remember, the difference is you're gonna be dealing with something that somehow has a setup, the situation, and then a resolution in approximately an hour versus 2 hours. Okay, so just depending on the length of what you're wanting to go for, movies are probably the better bet. Although in another video, I do talk about, using TV shows and learning from them. So they do have their place. But today it's going to be a movie. This is a movie from the 80s, an animated movie called Heavy Metal. Now, just to be crystal clear up front, if I were going to post the movie on here, it would definitely have the not safe for work warning. Because there is, I don't want to say there's rampant nudity, but there's enough that you're like, what exactly is going on here in some parts of the movie. So, for those of you who have not seen it, the movie is a series of stories that center around a thing called the Lochnar. It's a green orb, and it is pure evil. Everywhere it goes, it corrupts and enslaves things that it touches and affects, possesses people, can give them powers, does all kinds of things throughout the movie in different segments of the movie. And so it's showing the Lochnar throughout time and space in different sections as it's terrorizing this young girl somewhere, which you find out why her specifically in the final little segment. So, you've got, in my mind, two different ways you can go with this. You can either focus on the Lochnar itself and use it as your either as a MacGuffin in your campaign, as the evil force in your campaign. You got some choices. It's similar to what I recommended doing for 2001 and the monolith. The difference here is, unlike the monolith, or at least to all outward appearances, the monolith doesn't behave this way. The Lochnar communicates, it talks, definitely has a will of its own. Now, the monolith probably does too, but the way it's portrayed in the movie, it's just a thing that was sent there to do something. But I'm sure there's way more to it than what we see in the movie. I'm going to read the book someday, so I'll know for sure. But today is not that day. So, you have doing something similar to what you would do with the monolith. Again, except that you're dealing with a sentient object. So that can be different. It could be like, it could drive the entire campaign, that your characters are out to destroy this thing. Could be that it's a one-off. A wizard has it, gets out of his control. It starts wrecking the city in various ways, and it's up to you to stop it. Or if you're going like the whole campaign route, could be similar to the last segment where it crash lands in a mountain inside of creating a volcano, and then like mutates hundreds or thousands of people into its like weird mutant army and sends them out to wreak havoc and cause chaos. You go for something like that for your campaign setting, where you're going to fight your way through the mutant army to ultimately get to the Lochnar to destroy it. And that also kind of ties into the other option, which is pick one or more of the segments and adapt them directly. And that's probably the easiest one to adapt, because the others involve more modern things, or futuristic things. Like one's in future New York City. One is in the present day, but an alien ship shows up. And aliens proceed to do space cocaine. It's a weird movie. Then also, just a little side note, for those of you who've seen plenty of 80s movies, you should recognize some of the voices. John Candy and Harold Ramis are definitely among them. So there's that. But like I said, the last one is probably the easiest one to adapt, because even though it is the future, and people have guns, they're like automatic crossbows more than real guns. And like a couple of them have flamethrowers, but a lot of them have like handheld medieval weapons. And the main heroine uses a sword. And they're flying around on flying creatures. They're not using motorcycles or anything. So I think that would probably be the easiest one to adapt. Plus, it has some interesting scenery if you can, somehow replicate it in your game. The temple where Tarna, she's the heroine. She's a Tarakian. It's a human variant. They don't explain a whole lot. Her kind is sworn to fight the Lochnar, which, spoiler alert, that's why the Lochnar is terrorizing the little girl, because she's one of the Tarakians, might be the first of the Tarakians. But you see her descendant in the far future sacrifice herself to destroy the Lochnar, which destroys it across time and space. So the one in the past terrorizing her explodes, then she gains the mark of the Tarakians, and so I'm assuming that means she's the first one. But anyway, the movie doesn't explain all that. You don't really need to know that. That's not tremendously important. But there's a giant temple complex that she goes to. Is this huge statue and a big pool she's got to swim through, and like you could easily incorporate all that stuff. Also, the main city that gets attacked is a city of like scholars and philosophers and the like. So their big temple deal looks pretty cool. I mean, from the outside, it's just a big dome building, but on the inside, it's got this like a big spiral walkway leading up to the throne where the main guy sits, and that's on a big like corkscrew thing that once they start trying to summon Tarna, the whole thing begins like floating and spinning through the air, and just really neat appearance on a lot of this stuff. Uh, and of course, the villains have their, they live inside like a big cave wall, like the walls of caves, like they're burrowed into them. So it's like a big trench, like a canyon. They live inside the canyon walls. They've got buildings carved out inside there, so kind of a cave complex, and uh, I'm sure there's like an arena for fighting and things like that. Things in your prototypical evil city. So yeah, I mean that's definitely check that out. Um, but as for the Lochnar itself, if you're going to adapt that to a campaign, I would almost definitely either have that be something from the Far Realm, because things from the Far Realm are like that, madness inducing, mutating things. Or, have it be maybe like a negative energy infused sentient artifact, because it seems like for a number of the segments, like it kills things or like turns them and then brings their corpses back to life as skeletons and whatnot under its control, or where it mutates all the people. But even that, I think would still fall under necromancy in D&D, because you're talking about life force and essence and things like that. So, making it a negative energy thing probably still fit. Or, you could have it be a wizard, or wizard soul rather, who attempted a version of the Lich spell and it didn't quite work out, and now their soul is trapped in the orb, and so that's how they affect the world around them, is by infusing things with its energies and changing them. And you could take that idea and really go a couple different ways with it. Have it, they tried the spell, but it was a weird variant where it was unknown to them. It was like some kind of far realm trap or something. I don't know. Far realm creatures are weird. They do weird things. Uh, or they trafficked with a demon for the spell, and the demon knowingly gave them like the wrong kind of spell. That instead of turning them into the Lich, turned them into the sentient artifact, so that they would just cause chaos wherever they went, because demons are all about that chaos. You got a few options there. If you want to go the wizard Lich failure route, or a wizard lost in combat to an enemy, and the enemy drained his soul into an object, but something screwy happened with the magic there, and the enemy wizard lost control, or like over the centuries, the wizard inside the sphere gained control. You've got options there. So, and that's it. That's if you even want to deal with a complicated backstory for the Lochnar, instead of just it's an evil sentience that just wants to cause death and destruction wherever it goes. It's an option too. So anyway, like I said, I check out the movie. It gives you a nice idea of how the same, like, general principle, same object, can cause different kinds of havoc in different settings and do different things, such that, if you decide to create your own, like, sentient artifacts, give you some ideas of how, depending on who finds them, who has them, where they are, they're going to do different things. So, anyway, that's my bit for this particular movie. I'm debating on using something like this either in my current campaign or at like some future date. Because after watching the movie recently, I've been thinking more and more about attempting to create a whole campaign setting. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, hopefully some of you out there found this entertaining, informative. Hopefully something of one of those two, maybe. Or at the very least, not boring. But anyway, if you did, hit the the like and subscribe. This is YouTube. I'm going to beg you to do all the things. Make some comments. Let me know what you thought of it. If there's any movies that you want me and one or two of the others to talk about. And if you do that, let me know if you want a video like this where it's kind of a, what they call it, 1,000-foot, 10,000-foot overview, real broad strokes, or if you want down to the nitty gritty, like, oh, do Robin Hood, but tell me, like the class and level of each of the merry men or something like that. If you want something like that, let me know. That's going to take quite a bit longer to pull together, because if you've seen our other videos, you've probably figured out that things like planning and scripting, those don't really happen here. This is very much a seat of our pants kind of operation, giving you just that raw idea, comments, pure creative process in action. So that's messy, but we do every once in a great while try to make some notes, stay on point. Doesn't always work, but we try. So anyway, like I said, you want to see something like that, throw it down there in the comments. You think I'm just crazy, don't want to hear me babble about this kind of stuff anymore, throw that down there in the comment. Maybe I'm just whistling Dixie here. But either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you folks later.